My name is Charles Infurna, owner of Forza Athletics. We're at Forza Athletics. We provide coaches and athletes the tools they need in order to achieve their unique and specific goals. And usually in our intros for our podcast or other video series, I say throwers, but the topic that I've been getting a lot of positive feedback about over the course of the last couple of weeks has been about goal setting and the goal setting process, and how I talk about goals with our athletes at Alfred State, how I've talked about goals with some of the other athletes that I've worked with previously, either at NAS or Fredonia or post-collegiate throwers and things like that. So I thought it'd be cool to kind of put together a short video on part of the conversation that I had with our throwers, or with our whole team rather, at Alfred State, and more specifically some of the throwers that are some of the throwers on the team as well. So I'm going to kind of talk you through what I shared with our team as a whole, and like I said, what I shared with our throwers as well, more specifically in regards to how we go about setting goals and what that process might look like. All right, so this is what I shared with our throwers and track and field program a couple weeks ago. We got the email saying that we were unable to continue moving forward with practices just because of the COVID situation and whatnot. So this was something that I was going to talk to the kids about in person, but here we are. I talked to them about it via Zoom. Now I'm going to talk about it via Zoom here with you in this recording. So really, I have Liz Brookhouse to thank for this. She shared the initial kind of pyramid here, or bracket. It kind of looks like an NCAA bracket, really, about a few months ago. And I added some of the additional components to it that I think make it really important when we're trying to achieve a goal and what that process might look like long term. So if we're going to start here, for example, right, this would be step one. I have the 5 different ideas, really. Not so much steps, but kind of like big talking points for this particular presentation. So we're going to start here. So really, we need to identify what an outcome is that we want to achieve or what we want to accomplish, right? So specifically with track and field, and even if you bring it down a little bit more, even with throwers, right? What is an outcome that you wish to achieve? And I always talk about process goals with my kids as opposed to outcome goals, right? Like, we do want to hit specific distances. Like, there are certain things that we want to do, or the kids want to do for that matter, when it comes to throwing, right? So we want to qualify for a conference championships. The kids might want to win a conference championship. They want to go to nationals. They want to be an All-American. They want to be national champion. There are certain steps along the way. So identifying what outcome we want to accomplish would be step one, right? Figure out what exactly you want to do. And then number 2, I believe, is the most important piece to this whole goal setting process, is why is that outcome important to you? Now, the research suggests that if you're able to put a reason to it, there's 80 to 85% more likely that you're going to accomplish that goal, because you specifically state why it's important to you, why you want to do that. So if somebody wants to become a national champion, why is that important to them at D3? Like, why do you want to become a national champion? Why do you want to be a conference champion? Why do you want to throw a shot put 50 feet? Why do you want to triple jump 40 feet? Why do you want to, average 125 yards rushing per game? Why do you want to do this? Why do you want to do that? Tying that facet to the outcome makes it more likely that you're going to accomplish that goal. That has to be important to you. And that's really what I stressed with our kids when I talked about this a couple weeks ago. It's what I stressed with my throwers this season. It's what I've stressed with my kids at NAS. Didn't really go into it too much at Fredonia because I was still kind of learning what that process looked like. But even with Lewis and some of the other post-collegiate kids that I work with right now, I call them kids. I'm going to be 39. They're young adults. Why is it important to continue moving forward with that goal? Why is it important to you? Number 3 is, what sacrifices do you think you need to make in order to achieve that goal? And when I shared that with our college athletes, I got some funny faces, because at the D3 level, really we're competing because we love the sport, because we want to be there, right? We're not tied to scholarship. It's not tied to financial aid or anything like that. But if we want to, pursue our goal, and we want to get to the very top of our, kind of like sideways pyramid here, we won't get there overnight. So what type of sacrifices do you think you'll need to make in order to achieve that goal? Number 4, what obstacles will you need to overcome? And something that I share with our kids that I think is really important is, grades, especially at the collegiate level. Each university has their own metrics for being eligible to compete and participate in collegiate athletics. We have a firm 2.0, regardless of what class you are, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, right? And if you can't meet that metric after your fall semester of your freshman year, you're not eligible in the spring. So for some, that might be an obstacle, right? They're on their own for the first time. There isn't anybody that's really pushing or reinforcing that you have to go to class, they have to do your homework, they have these other obligations that you have to complete in order to be eligible to compete. Now, that's just one example. I'm sure there's millions of other obstacles that we might have to overcome while we're trying to pursue our goals. Number 5 is talents and skills, right? What talents and skills are you going to need to acquire in order to achieve your goal? This I really have Lou Holtz to thank. He's given many talks with other college, either football programs or just his leadership discussions about talents and skills, right? So if, in his specific talks with, Texas football, talks about what talents and skills you need to acquire. So that's with any sport. With track specifically, and the example that I gave with our athletes was, if you want to be a toe and 3 hammer thrower, right? 4 turns, a toe turn, and followed by 3 heel turns. That's a skill that you need to acquire, right? You're not just going to know how to do that the very first day. For the kids who have never thrown a hammer before, or discus or shot put or javelin, you need to acquire that specific skill. And it takes a little bit of time to do that. For some, it comes a little sooner than others. When that ties back into some of the obstacles, right? For some, it might take 100 reps. Some, it might take 200 reps. Some, it might take 300 or 400 reps before they accomplish that specific skill or acquire that specific skill before they move forward with their goals. And each step along the way is either going to move us closer or it's going to move us farther away, right? So if we think of all of the decisions, that we need to make or we make on a daily basis, they either move us towards our goal or farther away from our goal, right? Like Coach Holtz says, you're either living or you're dying. Either you're growing or you're dying. So what do we do on a daily basis that's going to move us closer to our goals? And the piece that I really appreciate that Liz shared is you won't get to either place overnight. And I really cannot stress that enough. And I stress that with a couple of the post-collegiates that I'm working with right now, really stress that with the kids that we have at Alfred State right now, is that it won't happen overnight. With track, these are things that take time, right? You want to throw 200 feet in the discus. Well, if you haven't thrown 150 feet yet, we got a long ways to go. If you want to throw a shot put 16 meters, but you've never thrown 12 meters before, well, you have a long way to go. And each, path is going to be different for everybody. There's going to be ups and downs, right? There's going to be bumps in the roads. But if you're willing to make some sacrifices and overcome some obstacles, you're much more likely to accomplish whatever you want. And it's not just with track or sports. I mean, that's a life thing. That's a lot of the messages that I've been sharing for any of the throwers who are going to watch this. The cat's kind of out of the bag now, but really these are life skills, right? So it's about being gritty and determined. Like, are you willing to work for a prolonged period of time towards trying to accomplish something? And the example that I gave is I'm registered for a half Ironman race at the end of August. So if I don't train and I just show up that day, I'm going to be hurting, right? I haven't swam over a mile. If I don't have at least the ability to bike 56 miles and then run a half marathon, I'm going to be hurting during that race. So each decision, from today until then either moves me closer to being able to finish that race or farther away from being able to finish that race. And that might be a little too extreme for like this specific example, because we're not really digging in, too much into the weeds, if you will. But really, this is a short snapshot of, what, some things are that you need to think about if you're an athlete that's watching this, or if you're a coach that's watching this also. If all the conversation is about outcome goals, outcome goals rather, and then you don't achieve it, then what? Like if you want to throw the shot put 50 or 60 feet, all right, but you throw 59.11 and 3/4. I mean, you were really close to accomplishing your goal, but you didn't do it, but you're a 1/4 inch away, right? Or if you do accomplish your goal, then what, right? Like if it's too easy for you to accomplish, if it's not really like a stretch goal, where if you're already a 55-foot shot putter and you fouled a couple, 62 throws and 62-foot throws in practice, then, maybe 60 feet's realistic, but maybe it's too easy. It's not a stretch for you. Maybe you need to push it out to 65 or 70 feet, just as an example. But this is really just a framework, a short benchmark type of presentation idea to get people thinking a little bit about, the goal setting process, trying to achieve the goals, trying not to achieve the goals, but what we can do in order to achieve our goals, right? So like I said, each blue square rectangle is us moving one step closer or farther away towards achieving it. So that's just really a quick, short intro video for anybody who's interested in the goal setting process and how to figure out how to set goals and have the conversations with your athletes. If you're an athlete that you don't have like an event specific coach or somebody that really you can talk to about this, that's a pretty good framework there for you to be able to identify some of the different steps and things along the way for yourself. Where if you don't have a coach or mentor, somebody that you feel really comfortable talking about it, you can talk about it with a peer, family member, somebody else that you trust in your life that can help you move along the continuum. But you have to identify what's important to you. Why do you want to achieve that goal? What obstacles are you going to have to overcome? What kind of sacrifices do you think you're going to need to make in order to accomplish that goal? And then what additional talents and skills do you have to acquire before you can start moving along that continuum? And it doesn't happen overnight. It's a long, could be a long drawn out process depending on what your specific and unique goal is. And I hope this information is helpful to you. And hopefully if those of you have made it this far, you find it very valuable. Please contact me and let me know. You can either, send an email at forzaathletics@gmail.com. You can leave a comment on YouTube. We're going to post it, all over the place, Instagram and Twitter and things. Hopefully you find this information helpful. The conversation that I had with our track and field athletes was a little bit more drawn out. It's like 45 minutes where we went into very specific details with each of the steps and moving either closer or farther away to our goal. So if that's something that you're interested in hearing also, please reach out and let me know as well. And again, my name is Charles Infurna, and thank you so much for watching our video on the goal setting process. Have a great day.